I'm Michael Bungay Stanier. This is Change Signal. This is the podcast where we cut through the blather, the BS and the noise to find the good stuff that works about change and transformation. Now, this is a disruptive episode about change, so don't say you weren't warned. We're getting into a conversation about why you need to be watching for patterns, a way of understanding organizations that will make total sense, particularly if you've ever gone swimming in the ocean, my new secret project, which I accidentally reveal, and then this bombshell.
I don't really think that the work of change is transformative anymore. I think it's operational. I don't think that there's another way to work right now that does not require constant evolution.
So that's Rodney Evans. She's the co-host of my second most favorite podcast on change and transformation. Obviously, this is my favorite. Her podcast is called At Work with the Ready. And the Ready is the name of the future of work consultancy where Rodney is a partner. Now, Rodney spends a lot of time with a lot of different organizations, helping them throw off the shackles of the past and find the proper ways to solve the gnarly problems that show up. She's worked in traditional organizations, consulting and Wall Street, and often in and around large-scale change projects. She also worked at the McChrystal Group as Chief Innovation Officer, and that's General McChrystal's work around team of team stuff, very interesting. And Rodney continues to make waves, or perhaps shape currents is the better way of putting it. And we're going to get to that in a moment. So, Rodney, hi.
Thank you. Thank you for the nice introduction.
I am, like you, when I started in this world of change, I'd be like, I'm doing a change project now. And it's a thing which has a kind of a start and kind of would hopefully have some sort of finish, and then we'd be done. And then maybe we'd take a bit of a break and then we move on to the next change process. But that feels very old school. It feels like this idea of adaptation and change and evolution is just the way work flows these days. Part of the challenge and frustration, really, of this field is, I still want to call this thing change management, which is ludicrous. I mean, what am I managing? I'm just managing my own anxiety, but not much more than that. What language have you found that allows people to be open to this process of adaptation and change? I mean, how do you frame it in a way that people go, oh man, that's intriguing, rather than that's old school or that's weird or I don't even know what you're talking about?
Yeah. So a couple of things in the last, I would say, year that I've abandoned, a couple of things that I've adopted that I think work better. I've kind of stopped talking about adaptability because I just feel like people's eyes glaze over because they don't know what it means. They're just like, yes, I know that should be what I am and am doing. And also like, what? No, so I've sort of stopped talking about adaptability. I've really stopped talking about ways of working. We used to really lead with ways of working. I still believe ways of working are the way that you actually change organizations.
Right.
But again, I think people have a difficult time sort of connecting the more conceptual and more lofty idea of where they are headed with these more mundane habits of, ways of working adding up to something different. And by ways of working, I mean ways of holding meetings, ways of clarifying roles, ways of compensating your people, very like, the blocking and tackling of an operation.
Yep.
So I stopped saying those things, even though they're still fundamental to what I believe and what I do.
Yeah.
Now, mostly when I'm talking with a leader, where I start is, tell me about the gnarly cross-functional problem you have that can't be solved.
Right. And why is that so compelling?
Because everybody's got one. Because everybody has the lived experience of, here's the thing that we know we need for our business, whether it is launching a new product or whether it is entering a new market or whether it is eliminating a bunch of jobs because of automation. Everybody has had the experience of everybody sitting around the table going like, yeah, we know this is it.
Right.
And then that work gets chopped up and parceled out across the org chart where it goes to die. And then some poor project manager and some poor change manager later are meant to stitch it back together and then communicate it to the org as a success. And everybody knows it's garbage. So I think that the language works because everyone at most scales of organization, every leader has had some version of that experience.
So what I love about it is that it's a problem means that there's a benefit to solving this that feels tangible and real. And then that it's cross-functional just immediately elevates it to be, you're not even saying this, but you're like, this is going to involve more of the organization, and it's probably strategic.
Yes.
Because if it's a cross-functional thing, it's important enough to get different parts of the business involved. So we've got to figure this out.
That's right.
So in a cunning way, you're saying, what's the strategic change project that needs to happen?
Exactly.
Like by going, what's the gnarly cross-functional problem we could solve? It's a really nuanced, brilliant piece of marketing because people are like, oh, I'll pay money to make the pain go away. And you're saying, tell me about the pain.
I appreciate that. I think it does work that way. And there is another benefit once you get into this work that that they don't buy at the beginning because it doesn't occur to them, which is that when it's a cross-functional problem and we get to organize people around it and sort of put the org chart to the side for a second, it immediately cuts through a lot of the scar tissue of the organization.
Right. Scar tissue, cutting through scar tissue. I mean, that's a powerful metaphor. So feel free to use that, adapt it, and help it sell the work that you do.
So, I've done a lot of work in my life within a function, and it's not that this work can't be done there, but you're inheriting the OS of that function that might be quite calcified. You automatically have the imprint of that functional leader and how they prefer to do X and where they like the coffee to come from and the offsite location that they always, you're sort of you're going to live with their ancestry right off the bat. When you start with a cross-functional group, I always say it's like getting everybody to summer camp. And it's like everybody gets an opportunity to reinvent themselves. Nobody gets their favorite cereal because mom's not there. And now we all kind of have to play by the rules of the cabin. We can't just say like, well, in my house, I don't clean the toilet. It's like, well, here in cabin 9, we all have a turn on the chore wheel. And so it's just, that's sort of like a little dark scaffolding around the gnarly cross-functional problem that once you get in there, you're already in a better position to not have to undo as much.
Oh, first of all, how good is that term, dark scaffolding? I love that.
It's such a banger.
As a banger. As a facilitator and a designer, which is like, oh, here's the stuff you don't even see, but it's the stuff that's influencing behavior. And I'm jumping in again just to appreciate Rodney's facility with language, scar tissue, dark scaffolding. I mean, I love that stuff. And while I'm here, a reflection. This chopping things up, it's a very mechanical way of thinking about change. I mean, it's literally divide and conquer. But why that might work for a simple, containable project, this approach rapidly becomes less than the sum of its parts when you're tackling anything with complexity, which turns out to be many, if not most things in organizations. So what's the alternative? Well, we're going to get to that right now. It's a model Rodney and the Ready have developed to help understand a bigger, integrated picture. Rodney, I'm a big fan of your ongoing podcast at the Work with the Ready, not least because I've been a guest on it a few times. But recently you've been taking us through the depth finding model, which I think is fantastic. And I want you to teach it to me. I want you to teach it to me and the folks listening because it's a nuanced way of seeing the world. It's a model, it's a metaphor. And then I'm curious to know around, understanding the different levels of depth. What does that tell us about how we think about change and transformation?
Cool.
So where do we start?
Well, I wonder if we could do an example.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant.
Do you have a problem that you would describe as complex that I could take you through this? It can be an individual problem, honestly. It doesn't have to be at a group level, but...
So let me try it out with a thing that feels a bit overwhelming for me at the moment. I'm a bit stuck around it.
Perfect.
So it's the 10-year anniversary of the coaching habit next year. And I really am keen to move awareness of it into a new vertical. Basically, it's marketing speak for. I'm hoping I can make this a book that parents and teachers of teenagers love and use so that they can parent and support these young people for better outcomes for everybody.
Okay.
I feel quite stuck and going, well, how do I move it into this space?
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I've been sitting with this as an idea and something that feels important for a year and a half, and I haven't really managed to get going on it.
This is a great challenge. We can absolutely
Perfect.
depth find a way. Okay, so the first question I have is, what would you say is going on externally right now, besides it being this decade marker that is calling you to do this?
Partly it's me being in my late 50s and constantly asking myself, what's my next best project that will be a contribution to a better world? And remembering a friend of mine saying, look, when you get to be old, you need to start helping the young. I just keep bumping into people who are educators. So like 3 of my 4 grandparents were teachers. I had 1 year being a teacher in my youth. So there's a kind of ongoing pull towards that. And then just on a really explicit level, like a month ago, I spent 2 weeks traveling with one of my nephews, a 19-year-old young man, Seamus. And I was pretty nervous about it because I'm like, what do I have to say to a 19-year-old? And what does a 19-year-old have to say to me? But it was a lovely trip. And that kind of sense of I'd love to help people of Seamus's age and those around him felt very real.
Great. So if you had to declare some aims here, I hear new vertical that is parents and teachers. Is there anything else you specifically have in mind that if we were having this conversation in a year and it had gone perfectly, or 2 years, and it had gone perfectly, what would you be holding up as sort of the markers for me?
Well, I think a marker that was for the coaching habit from day one was I wanted, in the world of coaching, I wanted this to be considered a classic.
Great.
And I feel like I'd love this to be considered a classic parenting and teaching text.
That's perfect. Okay, now what have you tried? What experiments have you run? What are you doing?
I've all right. What have I done? I've talked to people about this.
Okay.
But in a kind of jazz handy, way. I bought a whole series of books by people who write books to help people who help teenagers. So I've got 5 or 6 unread books sitting on my shelf. I have in the new edition of the Coaching Habit, the 10-year edition of the Coaching Habit, I've told people that there's going to be a bonus essay that they can get online around how the coaching habit applies to parenting. Now, that doesn't exist at the moment because I don't know what to write. And I haven't abandoned the idea, which is actually pretty important.
Which is a big one.
Yeah, because I'm forever coming up with half-baked, mostly useless ideas, and luckily I abandon almost all of them.
Okay.
But this one, it continues to be persistent for me. I'm like, I've had this, I've been gnawing on this bone for a year and a half.
Got it. Okay. You did it. We did it.
Hooray.
Hooray. That was a great example. Truly, though, one of the things that I do like about this framework is that you can do it for anything. Like, truly, from your dog's behavior to how you interact with your board.
So for more about Rodney Evans' work, I'm going to suggest 2 things. First, definitely add At Work with the Ready to your podcast stream. You can start with Rodney's interview of me if you'd like. And then go to theready.com. That's theready.com. And there's more information there about depth finding, including a guide you can download.
So the depth finding framework has 4 layers, and we're going to go, you know what? I'm going to go bottom to top with you because actually I have the most information about the midnight zone here.
Okay.
So I should just say as preamble, this model emerged from research that I was doing for a book that Aaron and I were writing at the time. And the story of it is funny, which is that it was about 5:00 in the morning and I'm in the dark working on this book as you do with my dogs on either side of me, half awake. And I remembered that show, The Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
And part of it was probably my mental state at the time. But the real thing that I was thinking about was how, sometimes you work in a team inside of an organization and it's like an alternate reality from the rest of the organization. And you go like, how are these people like this and not infected by this? Like, are they in some sort of Twilight Zone? And I started thinking about how those teams sort of have their own way of doing things. And then I found out that in the ocean, the Twilight Zone is a real thing, and so are other zones, and they line up perfectly to organizational structure. So we're going to start at the bottom, which is the midnight zone, which is the darkest zone. It is opaque. You cannot see into it. And this is where we say feelings, assumptions, and reactions to everything happening above swims around.
Can you just give me the labels for the 4 zones? So at least I've got kind of that picture and then I can see where I'm starting at the bottom.
Absolutely. Top is the sky, floats above the ocean. This is going to be external events, trends, weather that we must respond to.
Great.
Sunshine zone is the thin top layer. You can see it from above and below. This is your stated, explicit aims and measures.
Nice.
Twilight zone is the murky middle. This is how work gets done. This is your ways of working. This is how you do everything. Midnight zone, the opaque underlayer, which is important to note, is read only.
Right.
As is sky and sunshine. Sky, sunshine, and midnight are read only. You can only impact them through the Twilight Zone.
Got it. So I can't actually go in and try and change something in the midnight zone or in the sky or even in the sunlight zone. All the work, all the activity happens in the twilight zone, and it influences the different zones perhaps. So let me just jump in. I want to summarize it just so we've got this in mind as we carry on the conversation with Rodney. The sky zone, it's the external forces, so the market and geopolitical events and so on. The sunshine zone is all about kind of the explicit way things are done. So it might be the strategy document and how that's explained. It might be the values and what people keep talking about this is what our culture is. Edgar Schein would call these both the artifacts level and the explicit values level of an organization, if you know Ed Schein's model on culture. So in summary, it's kind of, this is what the organization is in theory. The Twilight Zone is the reality of how work gets done. I mean, if culture is, this is the way we do things around here, this is the culture. In theory, it's the same as a sunshine zone, but in practice, well, it never is. And the midnight zone is what Schein would call unspoken assumptions. This is the subconscious of the organization. It is deeply influential and we are barely aware of it. So the most true core values, the fundamental beliefs, the deep patterns.
So your midnight zone is very positive. So the way that I code this, I listen to somebody tell the story and then I quickly code positive, negative, neutral.
Yeah.
So what I heard from you in your midnight zone is a desire to contribute, a desire to help young people, a connection to your own family that feels important, a motivation to stick with it and persevere, and then somewhat neutral, an awareness of aging. That was all sort of in there.
Got it.
Up from there, Twilight Zone, pretty light. We're pretty light on the Twilight Zone. So I would say we have 2 neutral activities in the Twilight Zone, talking to people vaguely, and buying books.
Buying books and writing that I'm going to write an essay.
Yes, I put that in the sunshine zone. So this is perfect this is perfect. This is the example that we were just talking about.
Yeah.
This is a great way to talk about it. So you could say the writing of that was Twilight Zone.
Right.
The publishing of it and the fact that it lives in the new copy of the Coaching Habit is Sunshine Zone.
Got it.
So that's where the relationship between those things are. Anything that ends up in the Sunshine Zone started in the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, very nice.
In your Sunshine Zone, I actually coded these as mostly neutral. So a new vertical about parents and teachers. I wrote down the bonus essay thing. I would say consider it a classic sounds positive to me, language-wise. And then in your sky, all we have as sort of your external weather is this date, is this 10-year anniversary.
That's true. Yeah.
So when I look at this depth finding map, and if you want, I can send one of these to you if you want to like put it somewhere. The questions that I have, or maybe the provocations that I have for you is like, first of all, what else is really happening out there that makes this a compelling idea right now?
Right. Well, I can add to that, which is, rise of teen anxiety, mental health issues for teens, the rise of parenting influences like Dr. Becky, increased isolation. So there's a bunch of data out there that gives me a sense that as a young person, life can be hard.
Yeah.
And if you're a person who has a young person in your life, parent, teacher, uncle for me, there's an anxiety around what the hell do I do about that?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think this is such an important part of this particular problem is getting so clear on what the weather is and what the environmental factors are that really like light you up.
Right.
And then in the Sunshine Zone, what is the declaration from you that answers those things?
Got it.
I think that would be potentially compelling work to do. And it might be, maybe you have it right now, or maybe you don't have it yet. But I think there's an interesting bit there that I have a question about, which is like, if the question that you feel the environment is asking you is what the hell to do as a parent or an adult who cares about young people, what is the Sunshine Zone answer?
Got it.
From you?
Yeah. So the quick and easy answer is to bring the power of staying curious longer to the way you are with the young people in your life.
Awesome.
Because when you can stay curious longer, you're more present to them, people feel more seen and more heard, and you deepen relationship, trust, and there's a chance that you better help young people manage through the stuff they're up against because you're staying curious rather than rushing to fix them.
Lovely. So
before we go on, Rodney, this is really interesting. And dear listener, I know I could just keep going on this because it'd be all about me, which would be excellent. But I've got a question around how you use this model, because I've got 3 different kind of, I guess, models or scenarios that I could see this being related to in some way. One is this feels like it could be a way of understanding strategy.
Yes.
Because you've got the extigious, whatever that word is, external events. This is the context we operate in. Your Sunshine Zone is like, so here's our strategic goal.
What we're going to do. Yep.
And then you've got the work that needs to be done. And then you've got all the other stuff underpinning, hidden, which is getting in the way of your work perhaps, or amplifying it.
Yes. When something isn't happening that you think should be happening or you want to be happening, it's because one of these 4 levels is borked. And I think of Sky and Sunshine as being the strategic layer.
Mm-hmm.
I think of Twilight as being the execution layer. And I think of Midnight as mostly being the cultural layer. I mean, Twilight and Midnight as being cultural layer. Yeah. And so...
All right, that's really helpful.
Calling back to your problem, but really it's the same for any problem. Whether we could be talking about a growth hacking strategy or an AI experiment or anything else. Understanding, frankly, WTF is going on and what's missing. Yeah. So for you, what's missing is Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
There's just like, it's just like, if we laid this out for you, what is missing is the how. It's just the how. It's just if you showed me on a movie screen what you're doing about this, what would I be seeing? And right now, there's more that we need to see for this to be happening, right?
Exactly.
But a lot of times,
you nailed it.
More than buying books. Although great start. It's a great start.
Yes, thank you.
The way that I think it helps leaders is I say like it's about how you close the gap between strategy and execution and how you close the gap between organizational culture and individual experience.
Got it.
Because I just think that we have a tendency to work on those things in isolation, and that's not how systems work.
So it feels to me that this can be, start off as an auditing tool, which is like, do I even know what's going on? And you're making me think of a conversation with Carolyn Webb where she said basically, actually nobody ever takes the time just to stop for a moment and go, what else is going on? What else is competing? What else is the busyness?
What's going on here? Yeah.
So just that auditing process is really helpful. Collect what's going on. Secondly, there's a way of going, where's the tension between the different layers?
That's right.
Or which layer is obviously less than it might be.
Like which is empty, which is all negative, which is, exactly.
And I love, as you said, coding for positive, negative, neutral as a kind of really not just recording data, but recording kind of the weight of the vibe. Thirdly, I think there's something around as a tool to seek shared understanding. Because I can totally imagine you sitting down with whoever is somebody who might be influential in this and go, here's how I think I'm seeing it at the moment. Tell me what you see and how we're different from this.
Yeah. And it's really fun to do in a group for a similar reason, because I just did a session really recently where there was a policy introduced based on stuff happening in the federal government that was deeply, deeply unpopular in this organization. And the sunshine zone was all negative.
Yeah.
The sky was all negative. The twilight zone was pretty neutral. The midnight zone was bright red. Like it was a disaster. And there was one little positive sticky in the midnight zone, which was that everybody still believed in the purpose.
Right.
And it's like, okay, what are we going to do with this now?
Right.
We have to understand we can't just attend to people's feelings. We can't just attend to external events. We have to understand how these things are influencing and impacting each other so we know where the leverage points are.
Got it. That's really helpful. If you're teaching a change leader to use this model, to frame this, what do people get wrong?
What's cool is that people basically find it very easy to do themselves. Like people just download the thing and just like, I get notes being like, I did this with my team. Like it's just not hard to do. I think that what people get wrong is they see not always, but very often they see the ways in which the twilight zone is not serving the aims and measures in the sunshine zone and the way that it's creating a lot of negative reactions and feelings in the midnight zone.
Yeah.
But they don't pursue an alternative.
Yeah.
They don't pursue a different way of doing budgeting or a different way of recognizing employees or a different way of hiring. They kind of go like, well, yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
And I think that what I would love for every change agent to know is like, it is about the how. Yeah. Ultimately, the rest of it shakes out of how. And, I work with people who are less experienced in the change field. And I always say, like, there's a million frameworks out there. There are a million smart people to listen to. The only two quotes that I think you need, or the only, sort of aphorisms that I think you need to be a great change agent are these. The old Edwards Deming quote, every system is perfectly designed to get the results that it gets. Mm-hmm. And the old, maybe Buddhist, also attributed to Simon Sinek, quote, how you do something is how you do everything.
Right.
And the reason is because systems are fractal.
I feel Simon Sinek and the Buddha have merged now. They're basically the same. They're the same character.
They say the same stuff.
Simon's going to start walking around without his shirt on, just to kind of a generous
sitting
belly.
under a tree.
Yeah.
And the reason I think that one is so important is because I bet if you and I looked at your depth finding map around the 10-year anniversary, you could tell me the patterns here that repeat in your life.
Oh,
and if I did this with a CFO around what's screwed up about their budgeting process, I could see those patterns throughout the organization.
Right.
How an organization does hiring is how it rewards, is how it makes strategy, is how it does RTO.
Yeah.
It repeats. And so I really would love for people to tap into the idea that the how will get them the different results. The what will not get them the different results.
Okay. So then let me ask you, I'm going to ask two questions because I think they're similar and you can just find a way to answer in a way that works. One is, so how do you help people have the courage and the fortitude and the persistence to break patterns? And then related to that, it might be the same question, just different words. How do you invite people to have more agency?
Great questions. Everybody out there, like a collective eye roll, because this is such pat wisdom, but I really don't think you can break a pattern you can't see. And I don't think people spend a lot of time fully understanding their patterns.
Right.
Organizationally, it is like Memento, that movie. It's like everything is like, oh, it's going to be different this time. And it's like, it's not going to be different this time. It's going to be exactly the same this time. So really understanding patterns and spending more time understanding the nuances of why they repeat is so important. And I also think, and I've learned this from doing a lot of self-work, any pattern in any system, at the organizational level, at the team level, at the individual, it, as you well know, it is repeating itself because everybody's getting something out of it.
Right, exactly.
Even if everybody holds it up as being broken.
Even as everybody complains, there's the prizes and punishments. There's enough prizes to endure the punishments.
We're all getting something.
Yeah.
And even if the prize is, I don't want to do something new, or I prefer something familiar to something that's good, it's still a prize. So I think people underestimate the value of fully understanding an organizational pattern, and that is really necessary. And then I think that my coach taught me this thing a long time ago that is called name the pattern and step outside it. Right. And it's like, when you fully understand patterns as a cycle, and they always are, how do you notice when it's kicking off, and how do you pick a different move?
Right.
And again, Twilight Zone. So if I notice that we're in the meeting and the same executive has talked for 90% of the time and we haven't made a decision and we're just going to delay and then we're going to miss a deadline, okay, the pattern is starting now. What are we going to do? Are we just going to watch it till it goes off the cliff? Or is there something we could try? And this is where agency comes into play. Look, I think this is a really difficult moment for people to be courageous. I think that, in the United States, I think a lot of us feel like our systems are failing us. I think there's a lot of fear around the future of organizations, the future of healthcare, the future of government. People here are very worried about whether our institutions are in fact the net that we were raised to believe. They minimally might be. And so I think it's a hard time to stick your head up and say to that executive, hey man, are we getting somewhere? And yet I do think that there's always a move. I think there's always a move. And I think a lot of times agency starts with just asking a question that is like, is this serving us? Is this working well? Should we, I propose X. Would you be game to try it? Just like easy, non-dogmatic. Don't spend a lot of time influencing. Just like see the pattern that's starting and think creatively about one small thing that might disrupt it.
This has been brilliant. Thank you, Rodney.
Thanks, Michael.
So I do hope you'll take the opportunity to frame your change process through the depth-finding model that Rodney's just set out for us. I will be curious to see what you learn. I mean, at a most fundamental level, what layers are well-populated and well understood, and which ones aren't. Thank you for the support of this podcast. Now, if you want to do one thing to help, suggest your favorite episode so far to a friend who's in the world of change and transformation. That would be wonderful. Meantime, you can always sign up for our regular newsletter at thechangesignal.com. And thank you for doing the work. I am glad you're here.